Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Farah Ain binti Farizam, and this video is about the inflation and the fake perspective of it. First of all, what is inflation? According to Petinger, inflation is a sustained increase in general price level in an economy. So the more the price of the good and service, the higher the cost of living. In an economy perspective, an unsteady inflation in a country will result to its economy disturbance. Therefore, the higher the inflation, the lower the economy. According to Samuelson and Nordaus, there are three categories of inflation. First, low inflation. Low inflation is when the inflation in a single-digit number. In low inflation, the stability between the money and the demand are still good. Next, galloping inflation is where the percentage is 20% until 200% and the economy are in the verge of danger. Last, hyperinflation is when the percentage is over 200%. Hyperinflation means the economy of the country is so bad that the people did not believe in money anymore. There are two factors that cause the existence of inflation in an economy, which are external and internal factors. Internal is from the pressure from the domestic economy, and external is from the trade from foreign countries. In the history of there are cases where the inflation is so bad that we need to view so that it won't happen to our country. First, the first inflation is on the 16th century in Latin America where the gold and silver mines were infiltrated. Next, there are two biggest inflation in history which is Hungary and United States of America. In Hungary, the hyperinflation was called as paper money inflation. The hyperinflation is from overprinting the money from the bank. In USA, it was the biggest and longest inflation in history that occurs from 1965 till 1982, and it was called the Great Inflation. This inflation also caused by the excessive growth of money supply. As we already know about inflation, further in the video, we will also talking about other perspective of inflation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noraina Nabila and I'm going to talk about the general perspective in relation to Sustainable Development Goals. What is Sustainable Development Goals? Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, was introduced in 2012 to replace Millennium Development Goals, which has been used since the year of 2000. All United Nations member states are participating in this agenda. The goals are targeted to be achieved in the 15 years of time, meaning that it started in 2015. It is expected to be achieved in the year of 2030. The objective of this Sustainable Development Goal is to provide and create a better life for all communities in this world. There are 17 aims set in the Sustainable Development Goals. The first is no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduce inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace and justice, strong institution, and lastly is partnership for the goals. So SDG and inflation are interrelated with each other because both can affect the economic growth of a particular country. So as mentioned earlier, inflation happens when the price of products and services are skyrocketing to the extent that consumers can't afford to fulfill their basic needs due to the unreasonable price. This situation will lead to bankruptcies and poverty, especially among working and middle class. For example, this is what happened in Venezuela and Zimbabwe, where these two countries are having inflation and they are lack of essentials such as medicine and food. Thus, Inflation is seen as one of the threats to achieve sustainable development goals. Government, private sectors, and every member of a country need to figure out and come up with initiatives and ideas in order to minimize the rate of inflation so they can still achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
So, Assalamualaikum, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Nur Atira. My metric number is 1913422. So today I'm going to talk in part of how SDG can help from perspective. So as mentioned in the background, the definition of inflation. So inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level in economy. So when inflation happens, so prices of goods automatically will rise, and this phenomenon will lead to consumers to purchase more goods before the prices rise further. So when the power purchase of goods increase, they will increase the demand of things, and the impact on workers depend on the impact on workers' salary also will increase. So, for example, if inflation is caused by rising demand, firms are likely to raise salary to keep attracting workers. So the poverty rate will increase, and this will answer a question on how SDG helps from FIC perspective. So fiqh is the knowledge in covering the whole aspect in our religion, and so this after the Prophet period, the revelation stopped. The Muslim scholars resorted to the interpretation of the Quran and Hadith. So this interpretation involved the use of reason to solve the problem. Regarding this problem, creation of method is needed by using the secondary sources. So it refers to several methods, and the scholars of Usul al-Fiqh developed techniques of reasoning that. So one of the sources that we use in Usul al-Fiqh is Maslahah Mursalah, which is public interest. So it is a technique that would give benefit and a suitable method. So for example, one of the concerns of SDG is to introduce the policy that will minimize poverty rate among society. Does this condition resemble what has been said in one of the SDG, which is to have zero poverty? So the objective of SDG are to guarantee a brighter future for the society in order to have no poverty in 50 years ahead. So in that, from FIC's perspective, SDG helps to have full understanding in order to overcome this problem. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Rina, and I will be talking about impacts and threats of inflation. As what have been discussed earlier, it is clear that inflation is an alarming issue because every country might suffer from its impact. Inflation can happen in every country, and although it seems like a bad thing, it is actually necessary to experience mild inflation rate from time to time. The economy fluctuates, and so does the inflation rate. Maintaining a moderate amount of inflation rate will definitely boost the growth of economy for that country. For example, when the market price increases, people will buy more things before it gets overpriced. This will lead to the increase of demand, and eventually it will help more factories and shops to sell their stuff. Furthermore, they might hire a new employee to help with the production to meet the demand. Hence, the rate of employment increase. Thus, inflation gives a significant boost to the economic growth of a country for that particular time. Furthermore, a moderate amount of inflation is better than deflation. In definition, deflation means a reduction of a general level of prices in an economy. If the country is suffering from deflation, it might lead to recession. So, for instance, if the market price keeps getting low, people will not buy the thing and wait for it to be even cheaper, which results to low demand. Low demand equals to low employment rate because it's hard and it is difficult to pay wages since the company itself cannot earn profits from their businesses. According to an economist, Professor Mark at Swarthmore College, he highlighted that zero or low inflation rate will definitely bring a negative effect to the economy. However, when the rate of inflation keeps increasing, the major problem will ruin a country. A high rate of inflation will lead to hyperinflation, which already happened in few countries, and it is important for us to learn from them. A research paper done by Benedict Brauman agreed that a decline in wages, a real decrease in value, and improvement in external trade are the result from high inflation. To conclude, inflation happens throughout the timeline because it is necessary while maintaining the moderate amount of it. Nevertheless, when the rate keeps getting too high, it will bring damage to the economic growth of the society. If not taken seriously with quick and correct measurement, it will undoubtedly be a long-term recession, and it will be much harder to control and stabilize the economy of the country. That's all from me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Mohamed. I would like to continue with Islamic perspective on inflation. The main purpose behind this part is to throw some light on how Islam doesn't allow inflation due to riba, maisir, and among others which are forbidden in Islam. Firstly, one cause of inflation is interest itself, with interest into the cost of production and is included in the price of the product. So once we abolish interest, prices will come down to the extent interest entered into the cost of production. Secondly, the abolition of interest gives a boost investment and the production of goods and services. This too becomes an element in bringing the price level down. Thirdly, Islam prescribes a low-cost living style based on how people like, meaning to say that Islam doesn't encourage people to live beyond their means. However, all of these issues and among others, Islam policy takes care of that. In conclusion, the Islamic system encourages individuals to earn money by direct participation in the country's business cycle, and it also pressures and imposes the structure that promotes social well-being and discourages inequality by the over-accumulation of wealth by illegal means. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. I am here about riba and currency devaluation compensation, as inflation is a constant occurrence where the value of paper decreases. There is a debate about whether this is necessity of currency devaluation compensation in exchange such as loans. Despite some benefits, that currency devaluation compensation is not permissible due to its natural being like riba or usury. We believe otherwise. This is because if devaluation compensation is considered as usury, it will result in many people to face continual and evident devaluation due to inflation. We believe compensation due to currency devaluation is necessary. According to Islamic markets, the Sharia terminology, riba means excess, increase or addition, which currently interpret implies any excess compensation without due consideration. Riba is prohibited because it is depriving someone of his own asset more than it should be. In other words, it forbidden under Sharia law because it is thought to be exploitative. Hence, it brings us to the discussion as to whether currency devaluation compensation is necessary, and it regarded as riba usury. We believe currency devaluation compensation is necessary. It is especially true as the value of money or paper currency to continually declining, which means a dollar today worth more than your dollar tomorrow. Because of inflation, there is no compensation is given. In cases of loan, the lender will be suffering a loss. Then why currency devaluation compensation is necessary? This is supported by Jeremy. If anyone borrows an amount of gold and silver or other parable things and the price goes down, or is multiple, so give for the same amount that was received is enough. However, if both are satisfied, otherwise there is no problem. And condition of a mentioned rule in paper money, which due to its purchase power, the transaction is done with it, and typically no growth, rise and fall is problematic, and if the difference becomes significant, this is necessary to compromise with each other.
The existence of Islamic financial system is one of wonders to limit the rate of inflation. Islamic finance is a practice primarily implemented by Muslims throughout the Middle Ages. It involved the original teachings of Islam regarding social and economy, wealth distribution, business ethics, and anything related to the moral economy. There is not much difference of Islamic financial system with the traditional financial system. However, the apparent contrast is the interest free in the loan, as it was considered as a riba according to the Sharia law. Practitioners of these systems do not have to be Muslim, but enough to accept and abide by the rules indicated by the Quran and Hadith. Therefore, several solutions can be adapted to reduce the rate of inflation. What are those? So the first one is by eliminating the interest in an economy. This is mainly because an economy with interest free tends to cut down the cost of production for firms in order to expand the base activity of the business and people to play a part in the company on profit and loss sharing. The evidence can be seen in Japan, where the country does not suffer from inflation despite the low interest rate. Another latest study done by Salim and Hassan is proving that countries with interest-free monetary policy, IFMP, have a lower inflation rate than countries with interest-based monetary policy, IBMP. The second method to lessen the rate of inflation is to avoid declaring future contracts. This is due to the uncertainty transactions that will eventually lead to inflation. Moreover, the cession of the contract is to declare it when both parties are at the same place and at the same time. Next, to acquire the prime level of investment while at the same time minimizing the stockpiling of cash, Islamic Finance implemented the tax system to do so. This will also help in eliminating the rate of unemployment as well as enhancing the average income.
So I'll be concluding the video and summarizing what we have talked about. So, to summarize, inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and consequently, the purchasing power of currency is falling. So, as mentioned previously, the three types of inflations are low inflation, galloping inflation, and hyperinflation. Though inflation is often viewed as negative phenomenon, it is without a doubt that a little dose of inflation is needed in order to upheave and maintain the economy of a certain country. So this is simply because inflation helps boost consumer demand and consumption, which drives the economic growth. However, it's not to say that inflation is always good for the economy, because a high rate of inflation would affect the economy growth in a negative manner, as it would lead to a long-term recession. Additionally, as the price level of goods and services increases due to inflation, the poverty rate would also increase. Thus, the sustainable development goals play a huge role in keeping inflation in check. So we also looked at the Islamic perspective of inflation. So the Islamic economic system, similar to the conventional economic system, totally disapprove of price fluctuation. So not only that, the Sharia law also prohibits riba, which is a common element that could be related to the emergence of inflation. We also discussed about the issue regarding currency devaluation compensation as to whether it is necessary and permissible. So after the discussion just now, we believe that according to scholars, and also according to scholars, such compensation is necessary as the purchasing power of paper currency weakens over time, and is to ensure the welfare of lenders. And lastly, as inflation could be a threat to the economy, there is also a need to have a system that could overcome the threat. Ergo, the Islamic financial system is often viewed as the ideal system in overcoming such threats. It is evident that the Islamic financial system is praised for its promising ability to control and evolve the economy. So this is basically because the Islamic financial system ensures the interest of free transactions, ghara, and stabilizing the consumer prices. So that's all from us. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the discussion.